Sure enough, it's still that familiar ability. Just after Su Che and Natasha Romanoff slaughtered the group of bewitched people, Olivia Temple, who was 3 meters tall, held a burning chain, and had devil horns on her head, stood there without moving. But suddenly looked at Su Che and said, "Long time no see, my enemy in destiny. I never thought that you, who have changed another dimension, are still so stubborn. Why do you need to do these unnecessary resistance? The earth will eventually fall into destruction, no matter how you struggle, no matter how determined you are to resist. However, in front of my great master, who cannot directly call the gods by their names, your resistance will be futile after all." Listening to Olivia Temple's deep voice, the holy voice, like praise, Su Che lightly waved the bloodstains on the frost sword. His gaze was like a torch, and his voice was unshakable like a rock. "I didn't expect you to be so loyal after so long. Don't you think this is still extremely embarrassing? Put away your bewitching words, your spiritual power has no effect on me." After finishing speaking, Su Che raised the frost sword and pointed it at Olivia Stan in front of him. "It's you. I can perceive that your strength has become extremely weak now. Why, without the previous strength, you can only use this method of confusing people." As Su Che's words fell, Olivia Temple's eyes suddenly burst into a light called hatred. That look seemed to want to tear Su Che into pieces. This made Natasha Romanoff on the side see it very clearly, holding 2 guns aimed at the devil-like guy in front of him. Natasha Romanoff is like listening to a conversation between 2 people. Well, although judging from the contents recorded in the diary, she already knew that Su Che was a superhero from a parallel world. However, for what happened in that world? In other words, the matter related to Su Che in that parallel world. Natasha Romanoff was quite curious, and she believes that even Nick Fury must be very curious. "If you hadn't stopped me again and again, as an envoy of God, how could I be punished by the great master of God? It even devoured more than 90% of my power." While speaking, Olivia Temple angrily waved the fiercely burning iron chain in her hand, and directly knocked off the vehicles beside her. Boom! The blown car hit the opposite wall and exploded violently. And Olivia Stan, whose tone was full of anger and coldness. At this moment, he calmed down instead. "Although, you stopped me again and again, preventing me from sacrificing this planet to my master. Even for this, I was punished by the master. But it doesn't matter. When my master, the great god who cannot be named directly, descends, the earth will eventually be reduced to dust. Kneel down. Kneel in front of my great master, and declare your surrender to him. In this way, you will evolve from an ant to the master's envoy. Perhaps, you will have the same status as me in Silver Shadow, and the great master will also grant you endless power and life." While he was speaking, an invisible energy that seemed to be able to control people's minds began to spread constantly. This is a kind of energy full of holiness and peace, but extremely majestic. It seems that this energy can shake people's reason. Feeling that this energy began to spread, Su Che turned into an afterimage in an instant, leapt high with the frost sword in his hand, and stabbed Olivia Stan in the head. Following Su Che's actions, Natasha Romanoff instantly raised his 2 guns and shot at Olivia Temple continuously. Boom! Bang bang! Just with the bullet fired after hitting Olivia Temple. But it seems that even the armor that flows and surges like magma on his exterior cannot penetrate. He ignored Natasha Romanoff, who was shooting at him with 2 guns. Seeing Su Che jumping high and stabbing towards his face with a long sword turned from frost, Olivia Temple roared angrily, "Damn it, stubborn ants." While speaking, the fiercely burning chain, as thick as an adult's arm, directly attacked Su Che. The moment the iron chain attacked Su Che, a thick ice wall directly blocked the burning chain. At the same time, Su Che, who was incapable of hitting a blow, relied on a physique that was twice as strong as the peak physical fitness of ordinary people. A heavy kick on Olivia Temple's body. Immediately, a backflip landed in a very handsome posture, and then supported the ground with one hand. Frozen. As Su Che's indifferent voice sounded without any emotion, the next second the cold air spread rapidly from Su Che's hand supporting the ground. Almost in the blink of an eye, a layer of chill enveloped Olivia Temple. In an instant, a thick layer of ice rubbed against his legs. Damn ants. Her legs were sealed in ice, and Olivia Temple's eyes were red and her expression was ferocious, struggling constantly, trying to break through the ice. At the same time, he swung the fiercely burning iron chain to attack Su Che. Frozen lock. Accompanied by Su Che's changing and crossing fingers, in the next second, countless Zon blue, water chains, appeared out of thin air, tightly bound his limbs and torso from all directions, and could not move. Dive dragon. There was another cry, and an oriental dragon made of water rose up from behind Su Che, roaring and rushed towards Olivia Temple, who was bound and unable to move. In an instant, it was directly slammed into the air. Before Olivia Temple fell from the sky, this water dragon directly turned into a water prison and trapped it tightly in the middle. At this moment, Olivia Temple is constantly struggling with huge amounts of burning chains. But countless Zon Blue's water bar locks tied it up and couldn't move. It is surrounded by a thick layer of water prison outside, and the cold air is still rising, constantly freezing it. Seeing this scene, a gleam flashed in Natasha Romanoff's eyes. But before she could speak, she saw Su Che stretching out her hands, fingers constantly compressing and compressing. The water droplets in the palms of both hands also started to boil, and then bursts of crackling and crackling sounded like lightning. Although I don't know what Su Che is going to do. But Natasha Romanoff could feel the murderous intent in Su Che's eyes under the mask. It seems that Su Che will never give up until he completely wipes out Olivia Stan in the air. Stand around Su Che with 2 guns in hand to prevent Su Che from being disturbed accidentally. Soon, Natasha Romanoff saw that the palm of Su Che was crackling, and the water droplets that were as transparent as static electricity gradually condensed into a transparent solid like ice. Then it began to dissolve from an ice-like solid, and finally gradually turned into a black substance that solidified as a liquid. Sky curtain. Accompanied by the formation of the black matter, with a sound of esper, the black matter rushed to Olivia Temple, who was trapped in the water prison and tied up. I saw the black substance passing through the water dungeon and through the ice layer. It wraps Olivia Temple layer by layer like a Tarsus talisman. Lift. Raising his hand suddenly, the next second the water prison quickly flew towards the height of 10,000 meters. Seeing this scene take shape, Su Che breathed a sigh of relief, put down his hands and turned his head to look at Natasha Romanoff. He asked with the utmost clarity, "How long has it been since you saw the splendid fireworks?" At this moment, Su Che's expression seemed very relaxed. But Natasha Romanoff doesn't think so. At least, at this moment, she felt that she seemed to be able to see different meanings in Su Che's eyes. Su Che's eyes are complicated, at least according to Natasha Romanoff. It reminded her of the mentality she had when she and Hawkeye destroyed the Red House and blew up the Red House headquarters. In an instant, I felt relieved, and in an instant, I fulfilled my long-cherished wish for many years. But compared to himself at that time, Su Che's eyes at this moment are more complicated. Even apart from a trace of joy and expectation, there is also a trace of sadness. I should be happy, after all, I finally solved this enemy who has been entangled for more than 10 years. But what is the hope? As for the regret, it should be that the enemy in fate has been resolved. But he couldn't share this joy with his former close friends, members of the Avengers Alliance who were born and died together in parallel worlds. And as the only surviving Avenger in the parallel world, perhaps from this moment on, Su Che will no longer have familiar people. As someone who has been in contact with Su Che for so long, Natasha Romanoff believes in her own analysis. Well, I have to say that Natasha Romanoff really understood Su Che's complicated eyes. However, Natasha Romanoff's brain supplement direction was wrong. Olivia Temple, the old enemy shaped by Su Che's joy, was killed by herself. At the same time, Natasha Romanoff and Nick Fury saw this guy with their own eyes and believed in this guy and their own story. Even the trust value has increased a lot. What I hope is that after killing Olivia Temple, I will get the advanced version of Superman's body defense. With this reward, I finally don't have to worry about bullets, missiles, mushroom eggs and the like. As for regret, if I want to get rewards, I'm afraid I have to continue to make up enemies in the future. At the very least, link these to Galactus. Tisk. Well, under the condition of unequal cognition, Natasha Romanoff is indeed wrong. But it doesn't matter. Looking up at the sky, he saw Olivia stand flying upside down like a shooting star and still rushing towards the sky at a height of 10,000 meters. Natasha Romanoff asked with a smile, "It's been a long time since we've seen the splendid fireworks. After all, in our line of work, how lucky are we to have our personal time and life? So, what is the substance that crackled from water droplets and finally turned into black?" Looking at turning his head and asking himself, what is the black substance turned from water? Su Che put his arms on Natasha Romanoff's shoulders while looking up at the starry sky. When water is compressed by 100,000 atmospheres, it will become solid. That is high-density ice. This is a polymer of hydrogen and oxygen atoms formed after the hydrogen and oxygen bonds of water molecules are broken. When the pressure of water reaches 1 million atmospheres, warm and dense matter will appear, and nuclear fusion reactions are very likely to occur. The power of the explosion is enough to destroy a city. And that black stuff you just saw is metallic hydrogen that forms when water is compressed to 10 million atmospheres. Metallic hydrogen. Hearing what Su Che said, Natasha Romanoff, who was still looking up at the sky and waiting for firework, immediately looked at Su Che. Is that the kind of metallic hydrogen whose explosive power is 25 to 40 times that of TNT? Thinking of the crackling drops of water in Su Che's palm just now. Plus what Su Che said just now. When the pressure is 1 million, the water is likely to undergo nuclear fusion, and its explosive force can easily destroy a city. Natasha Romanoff looked at Su Che's eyes. Shendu changed. Oh my god, I thought I was fighting alongside Su Che just now. Su Che is using his ability to subdue Olivia Temple. Unexpectedly, he almost completely razed New York to the ground just now. This is too for a moment. Natasha Romanoff felt that her thoughts were a little messy. Don't worry, although those scientists want to compress the water to this extent, extremely harsh conditions are required. At least I haven't heard of it yet. That scientist in that top laboratory can create it. It's still relatively easy for me to handle, though. So don't worry about me ruining New York in the process. You have to know that for this day, in order to prepare this surprise for Olivia Temple, I have prepared for a very long time. Looking at Natasha Romanoff's complex eyes, Su Che smiled and pointed to the sky. Okay, let's watch firework. After speaking, Su Che lightly snapped his fingers. In the next second, a rumbling explosion sounded from above the 10,000-meter high sky. The visual effect brought by the explosion at a height of 10,000 meters is very shocking. At least, when countless people woke up by the explosion and looked up at the night sky, they could all enjoy the same brilliant fireworks. Even Natasha Romanoff, who had complicated eyes on Su Che at the moment. They all breathed a sigh of relief, let go of their thoughts, and raised their heads to look at the gorgeous fireworks. Although Natasha Romanoff didn't know, in fact, Su Che told Natasha Romanoff what he just said on purpose. Always deal with S.H.I.E.L.D. gradually. Su Che knew that Natasha Romanoff would definitely report this matter to Nick Fury after returning home. So, go ahead and increase your status in Nick Fury's heart. Maybe it can also squeeze Nick Fury's wool and increase his trust in the diary. To be honest, Su Che really wants to know, after Nick Fury's trust value reaches over 90%. What new ability will I get? Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Did you hear their conversation? Watching the video coming back from the S.H.I.E.L.D. satellite. And Natasha Romanoff's wrist widow's bite, the real-time recording of task content and calls. Watching the violent explosion at an altitude of 10,000 meters. Maria Hill said softly. Su Che should have done it on purpose. Maybe as he said, this metal hydrogen formed by the compression of water was specially prepared for Olivia Temple. After all, the nuclear fusion caused by compressing water into warm and thick matter is too powerful. Maybe the whole New York will be blown up. He also knows this, so Su will continue to compress. Forming it into metallic hydrogen is a powerful substance that won't easily destroy a city. Hearing Hill's words, Nick Fury said in a deep voice, "You mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. must be dispatched? Su Che is too dangerous, is it already a humanoid destruction weapon?" "No, I mean, he can use water compression to create metallic hydrogen." Looking at Nick Fury, Maria Hill said seriously, "Metallic hydrogen, a room temperature superconductor, as far as I know, requires extremely high conditions to create. At least, none of the top scientific laboratories have overcome this problem. So, what a good condition, we can spend 10 million or even 20 to 30 million to buy 1 gram of metal hydrogen from Su Che. Then turn around and declare the purchase funds to the World Security Council, even if you apply for more than 100 million funds at that time, isn't that what we say? After all, this kind of thing has no market and price, and the value is set by us. This is much better than the damage of those Quinjet fighter jets, and the reason for the maintenance of aerospace carriers. Listening to Hill's words, Nick Fury's only remaining eye lit up. Yes. I was so preoccupied with thinking about how terrifying Su Che's current strength is that I forgot that I could use this matter to pluck the wool of the World Security Council. Tisk. Now the moon base still needs a lot of money. It would be a pity if such a good opportunity was missed. Question. What is the first thing to do after getting the perfect version of Superman's body? Answer. It is very novel and I want to test whether it is as powerful as the system said. Alright. Looking at the fruit knife stabbing hard, the tip of the knife collapsed, and the blade was a little tired. But it didn't leave any scars, not even white spots. Satisfied, Su Che threw the fruit knife into the trash can. Finally, there is a skill that can save lives. Although I really want to buy a gun and shoot myself in the head. But this idea is only an idea after all. Sitting on the sofa, watching the pictures reported on TV. Although the incident happened after 10 o'clock in the evening, and it is almost 12 o'clock now. The whole process was recorded by many people with their mobile phones. Looking at the broadcast on the news, and even the popularity of this matter on the internet, it once surpassed the kidnapping of Tony Stark. Well, counting the time since he was kidnapped, he should be back soon. Turned off the TV, and then opened the editing page of the system. At this moment, the system compilation page is displayed. After what happened tonight, Natasha Romanoff's trust value has reached 81%. Even Nick Fury's trust value has reached 70%. It's not easy. You know, that's Nick Fury. But it's good, at least the Widow Sister's trust value will increase by 9%. You can get 10 times the peak physical fitness of ordinary people. Although I got the perfect version of the defensive version of Superman's body. But the reward brought by the Widow Sister can improve myself in various aspects such as speed, strength, and agility. This is exactly what I need. As for Nick Fury, I don't know what kind of reward this product can bring me. By the way, the system, I killed the Olivia Stan I created, and there is another reward that can increase the number of diary holders, right? Suddenly remembered, except for the reward of the perfect version of Superman's body. You can also add a quota reward for diary holders. Su Che asked the system directly. Should I choose a black gold diary holder at random, or can I designate a person to choose? The system defaults to the random selection of the number of black gold diary holders. Choose immediately. Seeing the answer given by the system, Su Che nodded. In other words, whether it's an Avengers Alliance superhero like Widow Sister and Wanda, or someone related to the Avengers Alliance like Nick Fury. They are all randomly selected by the system. What about the supervillains in the Marvel world? Are these villains among the places? System. Randomly select one of the requirements for the holder of the Black Gold Diary, who has participated in or recorded major events in the Marvel movie universe. That is to say, as long as it is a major event that appears in a Marvel movie, whether it is a decent or a supervillain, it is possible to become the next holder of the Black Gold Diary, right? Facing the system's answer, Su Che nodded. That range is huge. The next holder of the Black Gold Diary may be Captain Marvel Carol, or Strange who has not yet become the Supreme Mage. It may be the frozen Captain America, or Tony Stark who has not yet escaped, Thor with the hammer, etc. Definitely, it may also be Thanos, the goddess of death Hela. There's even the possibility of Dark Lord Dormammu, Malekith, chief of the Dark Elves. System. May I ask if the host has enabled the increase of the number of Black Gold Diary holders? Not open yet. Facing the system inquiry, Su Che has not been opened yet. Instead, he chose to increase the Widow Sister's trust value to more than 90%. Before the next quota of Black Gold Diary holders is determined, the trust value of the Widow Sister must be fully filled. In this way, I can concentrate on brushing the trust value of Nick Fury in the next Black Gold Diary holder. Open the diary compilation page. Su Che recalled the way the widow sister looked at her just after the war ended. Immediately began to compile up. 3 streets away. Natasha Romanoff came out of the bathroom and changed into pajamas. While wiping his hair, he came to the sofa and opened a can of beer, and at the same time took out the black gold diary. After the battle tonight, I stayed up all the time, waiting for my Wanda and Pietro to rest. Another briefing with Nick Fury before a chance to unwind with a beer after a shower. According to Su Che's identity, he finally solved his old enemy Olivia Temple in this parallel world. Then there will definitely be some emotions in my heart. It's like how I couldn't calm down for a long time after my mission in Budapest was over. Although, the update frequency of Su Che's diary is not high, and only 5 diaries have been updated in 4 months. But Natasha Romanoff knows that Su Che's 6th diary will definitely be updated tonight. Well, I'm afraid Nick Fury has absolutely no rest now, and is also waiting for the update of the diary. Really. Flipping through the diary, Natasha Romanoff soon discovered that there was a blank page after the end of the 5th diary. The 6th diary has been updated. 1. Knock back again and again, knocking it back to another dimension again and again. Finally today, in another parallel world more than 10 years later, Olivia Temple, the old enemy of fate, was truly resolved. It's just. Except for a little bit of relief, I'm not as excited and happy as I imagined. In the past, we defeated the villains who threatened the Earth, and in the past, we won victory after victory. Everyone always gets together to throw a party. Tony provides the venue, and Thor holds the wine he stole from his daddy Curry. Steve claims to drink 1 cup after another. Because of the serum, he claims not to be drunk, and Natasha Romanoff will also be a guest bartender. Barton talks about arranging a farm for his wife and children with the help of Nick Fury, and Dr. Banner will look at him enviously. Sometimes when the atmosphere is up, Thor will deliberately break a cup, saying that this is Asgard's highest appreciation for fine wine. At this time, everyone will boo and generally dislike Thor. Everything is so happy, the whole party is full of laughter. But tonight, I can only hold a glass of wine, looking at the night alone and remembering everything. Actually, Ida's okay, nothing is unacceptable, after all, things have already happened. I just miss them a little bit. Calculating the time, Tony Stark should be back soon after being kidnapped. The curtain of this world will also be slowly opened. After coming back this time, his whole body will undergo earth-shaking changes. Although he still has that seemingly cynical character, he already knows the fragility of life. It doesn't matter if it shuts down the Stark industry afterwards, or carries mushroom eggs into outer space to blow up the Chitauri battleship. After all this time, he has truly integrated into the big family of the Avengers alliance. The birth of a superhero cannot escape suffering and experience. Although I don't believe it, I also hate this sentence. Praise suffering, praising suffering, thinking that suffering can make people grow up, I totally disagree with it. Although, whether it is a member of the first-generation Avengers Alliance or a member of the second-generation Avengers Alliance, it seems to be the case. Well, perhaps Xu Ying should promote Selena as store manager. After all, in tonight's battle, although Selena was very scared, she still knew how to perform her duties and pull customers into the counter. Sitting on the couch with a can of beer, looking at the writing in the black gold diary, the corners of Natasha Romanoff's mouth raised unconsciously. From missing those partners who lived and died together in the past, I miss the time when those people were together. Then shift to the kidnapped Tony A. Stark is about to return. Then the topic mentioned the matter of promoting Selena to the store manager. Well, this kind of leaping thinking is very consistent with an entanglement that has lasted for more than 10 years. The end result is the mentality after this fight. It was like after he blew up the Red House by himself. The first thought was not to be finally relieved and to relax. It's like asking Barton to take himself to a good meal and then complain about SHIELD's food at the table. Typical symptoms after a long period of psychological depression ends. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. looking at the contents of Su Che's diary. Nick Fury picked up a cup of coffee and took a sip with a smile. Just looking at what was written in the diary, when Su Che missed the Avengers of his world. Nick Fury was still a little worried. But soon looking at the jumping thinking in the diary, he let go of his worries. Nick Fury attaches great importance to Su Che. It's just that soon, Nick Fury can't laugh anymore. Speaking of promoting Selena to store manager, I suddenly thought of one thing. During the battle tonight, all the glass in Tahualan Cafe was broken, and I don't know if S.H.I.E.L.D. will pay compensation. I think Nick Fury should be compensated. After all, if he is not willing to pay the money, then I will tell them what happened to Nick Fury's broken eye under the blindfold after the establishment of the Avengers alliance in this world. And then through them, spread the news in S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe in this way, everyone will understand why S.H.I.E.L.D. has no explicit regulations, but it prohibits keeping cats. After all, the words exuded by a superhero team like Avengers are quite trustworthy. Puff. Nick Fury, who is leisurely drinking coffee, after seeing the contents of the diary. The coffee spurted out of his mouth. Fortunately, the reaction was very quick, and the black gold diary was removed immediately after the coffee was sprayed out. Otherwise, the spit-out coffee will stain the pages of the black gold diary. Ahem. While coughing, he wiped away the spouted coffee. Nick Fury looked at the contents recorded in the diary. Damn, it's unbelievable. How did he know such a very secret thing? You know, I kept talking about this broken eye when I was talking to the outside world. It was destroyed because of a dangerous mission, or because of being betrayed by the most trusted person. How did he know that this eye was blinded by a cat? Ba ba ba. And is that a cat? That's the Yuan Devourer. The Yuan Devourer that even Tesseract can devour. How could I have been scratched by a common cat? In addition, the holder of the black gold diary is not only myself, but also Natasha Romanoff and Wanda. Damn it, after these two people read this diary again. Don't you think that your eyes were scratched by a common cat? Looking at the sentence in the diary, the reason why S.H.I.E.L.D. does not allow cats. Nick Fury's state of mind suddenly broke down in a rare way. Damn it, if Natasha Romanoff and Wanda got it wrong, especially Natasha Romanoff. Then the image I had created in the past collapsed in an instant. You know, my image has always been the king of agents, ruthless, and I maintain absolute confidence in everything. There are countless cards in the hole, and they are scheming. But, thinking of Natasha Romanoff and the rest of the Avengers alliance, including all the members of S.H.I.E.L.D., everyone knew that the director in their hearts had been blinded by a cat. The scene where I couldn't help but hide behind my back at the end. Nick Fury couldn't help but patted his head. Damn it, who told Su Che this news? Why does he know this kind of thing? Who exactly told him? You can't be yourself in the parallel world. Thinking about it this way, Nick Fury inexplicably felt that it made sense. After all, apart from this reason, there seems to be no other reason why Su knew about this matter. Thinking of this, Nick Fury leaned on the chair and couldn't calm down for a long time. No, is the self in the parallel world an idiot? To recruit Avengers Alliance members to form a superhero team. Do you really dare to say anything? Don't even let this kind of lethal thing go? Bah. How can people do this? How can a person be like this? One cannot, at least not should. Really. I don't even want my face. Thinking about it, Nick Fury sighed. Now, it's too late to say anything, this secret has already been known. You can't kill Su Che Natasha Romanoff Wanda just because of this shameful secret. Mare Fok thought that this secret was well protected. Forget it. Let's pay more compensation. Thinking about it, Nick Fury immediately picked up the phone and dialed out. The call had just been connected, and before the people over there could respond, Nick Fury said directly, 3 hours, I only give you 3 hours. Within 3 hours, the glass of the Peach Blossom Forest Cafe opposite Stark Industry must be installed. It is absolutely not allowed to disturb their normal opening tomorrow. Without waiting for a reply, Nick Fury hung up the phone directly. Well, how do you tell Natasha Romanoff about this, so that she can't believe that she was blinded by a cat? Pooh, that's not a common cat at all. Next morning. Selena, please bring me a cup of coffee, thank you. When I came to the counter, I asked Selena for a cup of coffee. Pepper Potts came to Su Che with coffee. Good morning, Mr. Superman who likes to bask in the sun. Good morning, Ms. Pepper in a good mood. Seeing Peebo greet him happily, Su Che replied with a smile. It's getting better today, did something happy happen? There's news from Tony. He's heading here on Colonel Rhodes' plane, and he'll arrive in New York in 2 hours. While talking, Peebo sat opposite Su-che. Thank God, Tony finally returned safely. By the way, Su, you saw the news about what happened last night, right? Putting down his coffee, Peebo said to Su-che with great vigor, at around 10 o'clock last night, a demon more than 3 meters high sprang out from the ground, with magma and horns all over his body. Holy shit, this is so bad, it's like the end of the world is mentioned in the Bible. At that time, the whole street was cracked, and then the pedestrians on the street ran away screaming, and the passing vehicles were easily smashed by the demon holding the burning chain. Seeing Peebo's excited expression, he danced and talked about what happened last night. Su-che picked up his coffee and said with a smile, I was also on the internet this morning, and saw something about what happened last night. But I always feel a little fake, it seems to be made by special effects. I came here to take a look this morning and found that the collapsed ground was intact, and the broken glass in my coffee shop in the video is also intact. If it wasn't for Selena's night shift here last night, I doubt all this is true. Speaking of this, Su-che spread his hands. After all this is simply too unbelievable, isn't it? Who says it's not? Hearing Su-che's words, Peebo nodded in agreement. Yes, it feels like a story in a myth has been moved into reality. Fortunately, when everyone was panicking last night, 2 superheroes fell from the sky. One is wearing a silver-white battlesuit, like a knight coming out of the moon. The other one is a woman with long red hair. Speaking of this, Peebo said with some regret, unfortunately, I didn't see the faces of these 2 people clearly. Someone took a picture of it online, but it seems that just after it was posted online, the woman's face was covered by a mosaic. I tried to use computer technology to remove the covered mosaic, and found that it was impossible. Picking up the coffee and taking a sip, Peebo said seriously to Su-che, I never thought that in our world, there really is that kind of superhuman being silently guarding the earth. Man, this reminds me of Steve Rogers back in the day. However, these 2 people are obviously more powerful than that demon from hell, especially the Silver Moon Knight. He directly used his ability to throw the demon to a height of 10,000 meters, and then directly blew it up. Silver Moon Knight? Listen to Peebo's nickname. Su-che was slightly taken aback. When did I have an extra nickname of Silver Moon Knight? But before I traveled here, I had heard about the Moonlight Knight. That's right, Silver Moon Knight, that's the nickname those people on the internet gave to that superhero. Don't you think that superhero, who fell from the sky and wore a silver-white battlesuit cloak, is very suitable for the handsome nickname of Silver Moon Knight? Looking at Su-che, Peebo explained with a smile. In the counter not far away, Selena is in a great mood at this moment. Although I was a little scared last night, but because he performed very well last night, the boss upgraded himself to be the manager of this coffee shop this morning. Haha, finally got what I wanted. My old lady finally became the manager of this coffee shop. Looking at everything in the store with admiration. Needless to say, after becoming a store manager and when I was a waiter, my field of vision is different. But listen to the discussions of these customers in the coffee shop. There was even a discussion between the boss and that Pepper Potts lady. Others don't know, but Selena knows it very well. The woman with the wine and red hair that fell from the sky last night was definitely Natasha Romanoff. I can see it clearly. As for the Silver Moon Knight rumored on the internet, the more you look at your figure, the more you feel like your boss. Although there is no evidence, it feels like the Silver Moon Knight is definitely his boss. Believe in a woman's sixth sense. Well, even if she knew, Selena would never reveal it. Even if the newspaper office has already issued a price of 1,000 yuan for a message. Selena also decided that she would never disclose the news of her boss and Natasha Romanoff. After all, after becoming the store manager, his weekly salary became $500. And there are some extra commissions every month. Which one is more and which one is less, Selena is very clear about it. With a weekly salary of 500 knives, plus a monthly commission. In this way, I can afford my sister's college expenses in the near future. Shang's younger sister will go to school in debt like other college students, and she will be burdened with huge debts just after she came out of the university campus. Tisk. This kind of life is simply beautiful sizzle. Ah, The time is almost up. After chatting with Su Che for a while, Peebo glanced at his watch. Then he got up and smiled at Su Che. I have to go to the airport early to pick up Tony. So Su, let's talk next time. Good. He smiled and nodded at Peebo, watching her get up and prepare to leave. Su Che suddenly said, Peebo, what's wrong? Hearing Su Che calling himself, Peebo turned to Su Che and asked with a smile. I remember bringing 2 cheeseburgers on the road. I was kidnapped for 3 months, and I think Mr. Tony Stark will miss it very much. Hearing what Su Che said, Peebo thought for a while, and then the corner of his mouth raised. I'd almost forget if you didn't tell me. Thank you, Mr. Superman. You're welcome, Ms. Pepper. Watching Peebo turn and leave, he went to the nearby burger shop to buy a cheeseburger to take with him. Su Che sat on the chair, and then looked at the TV hanging in the coffee shop, which was broadcasting at the moment. The news about the appearance of the demon last night. The superhero defeated the demon and successfully protected the Earth. Silver Moon Knight. This nickname feels pretty good. Inside the private airport blocked by the military. Carrying the handbag containing the cheeseburger, Peebo stood there emotionally at the moment. It has been 3 months. It has been 3 months since he was attacked and kidnapped in the Middle East desert. During this period, various emotions such as anxiety, sadness, and disappointment enveloped me constantly. Although I used to be Tony's assistant, not only to help him deal with all kinds of garbage in life. Even some extremely trivial things need to be kept in mind by yourself. Even if it is a birthday, it must be dominated by Tony's daily life in advance. However, I still hope that Tony can come back safely. Although the outside world always thinks that Tony Stark is a selfish, arrogant bastard. But as his life assistant, Peebo knew very well. Compared with those comments, Tony is more like a child who can't grow up. Thank God for Tony's safe return. I can't even imagine what kind of pain and torture Tony has suffered during these 3 months. Actually, you can sit in the car and wait. After all, it will take some time for Tony to come back. Happy looked at Peebo, who was standing there with a hamburger handbag, and persuaded him, besides, it's very windy today. It does not matter. Hearing Happy's persuasion, Peebo's eyes were slightly red, but he smiled and shook his head. I was attacked and kidnapped for 3 months. Maybe he will miss us so much during this time. So I think, when Tony comes back, he must be the first to see us. Hearing what Peebo said, Happy nodded slightly. If there is anyone in this world who knows Tony best, then it must be Ms. Pepperpotts in front of me. As time went by, a plane landed slowly. As the cabin door opened, Peebo saw Tony wearing a black suit jacket and a bandage on his left hand. Tony, who was supported by Colonel Rhodes, walked down. Seeing Tony approaching, Peebo had a smile on his face. During this time, Tony really lost a lot of weight. When he got off the plane, he saw Peebo standing there to greet him. Tony noticed right away that her eyes were red. Just as he got off the plane and was about to go in front of Peebo, he saw a group of people pushing a stretcher rescue vehicle over. Are you kidding, Rhodes? Tell them to go away quickly. After finishing speaking, he ignored Rhodes' support. Step by step, he walked directly to Peebo, who couldn't hide his smile because he saw him at this moment. Your eyes are red. Are you crying for the long-lost boss? Tears of joy. Glad I don't have to look for another job. I hate looking for a job. It's still the familiar Tony's personality, and it's still the words he can say when they meet. Very good. Although I was kidnapped for more than 3 months and suffered all kinds of torture and pain. But, Tony is still Tony. Yes, but your vacation is over. Back to the car. Looking at his boss, Ms. Pepper, through the rearview mirror, Happy asked, where are we going, sir? Happy. Go to the hospital first. Let's check Tony first. No. Before Peebo finished speaking, Tony directly denied this choice. Why no? Tony, you should have your doctor examine you now. If you don't go, you don't go. I don't have to do something. Tony, your current physical condition is the most important thing to pay attention to, so you need to go to the hospital. I've been stuck for 3 months, Peebo. I just want to do 2 things right now. Interrupting Pepper. Tony Stark looked into her eyes and said very seriously. The first thing is, I really want to eat 2 cheeseburgers right now. Cheeseburger. Seeing Tony's serious expression, Peepo handed him the tote bag containing the cheeseburgers. Cheeseburgers, too. Wow. Looking at the handbag that Peepo handed over, Tony was silent for a few seconds. Peepo. What did I say? I knew you understood your boss. Some couldn't wait to pick up a cheeseburger. Tony took a bite hard, and then said contentedly while eating, you know, during the 3 months in the cave, I miss it all the time. Thanks to Mr. Superman for reminding me. Seeing Tony's satisfied expression, Peepo shrugged his shoulders and said, I was so overwhelmed by the news that you can come back today, I even forgot how much you have suffered in these 3 months. It was Mr. Superman who reminded me that maybe I should bring 2 cheeseburgers. Mr. Superman. Tony, who was eating a cheeseburger, couldn't help but pause when he heard Peepo's words. Who is Mr. Superman? Your new friend. How did I not know you had a friend named Mr. Superman before? Tony, who was chomping on the cheeseburger day and night, suddenly felt that the cheeseburger in his hand was not delicious. Pepper. Actually have a friend named Mr. Superman? Damn it. It's like my best friend has another better friend behind my back. It's like coming back from a business trip to find that my house has been stolen. Oh, such a poor analogy. Can't I have my social life? Looking at Tony's expression, Peepo smiled and said, although I am your personal assistant, Tony, I also have the right to make friends, don't I? Definitely. No one said you couldn't have the right to be friends. Shrugging his shoulders pretending to be relaxed, Tony Stark ate the cold cheeseburger, which didn't feel so sweet, and said, it's just that there are so many liars out there, who knows what kind of guy that so-called Mr. Superman is. Tony. Okay, I won't talk about it. Listening to Pepper calling his name in a long voice, Tony Stark swallowed the first hamburger. There is one more thing that I have been thinking about during the time I was locked in the cave, that is, I want to. It's impossible, can you stop thinking about it when you just came back? It's not what you think. Seeing that Peepo misunderstood himself, Tony said, I want you to hold a press conference immediately. A reporter's press conference? Yes. The expression was gone from the sour expression just now, and Tony Stark put on a very serious look. Don't ask why, you will know in a while, now do as I say, Pepper. After finishing speaking, Tony Stark said to Happy, the driver and bodyguard, Happy, drive, Stark Industries. Well, wait until you announce your decision in front of all the media. Learn more about Mr. Superman. 2 floor-to-ceiling windows worth 200,000 yuan, my god. This may be the most expensive compensation for glass in the history of S.H.I.E.L.D. Sitting opposite Su Che, throwing snacks into her mouth, Natasha Romanoff smiled and said, the money has already been deposited into your account. But I don't know why, I always feel that Nick Fury's compensation is so fast. It's still willing to do so, as if the compensation for the 2 windows in your coffee shop is not given to you, but to him. Hearing what Natasha Romanoff said, Su Che picked up the phone and took a look. Well, there is an extra 200,000 in the account balance. The video of our fight with Olivia Stan last night was filmed, but my face was manipulated so that no one could spot me. After swallowing the snacks in her mouth, Natasha Romanoff smiled at Su Che. As you said, before the number of superheroes increased. It's best not to show your face for a while, lest you lose your own life. In addition, there are 2 things to find you this time. Picking up the coffee and taking a sip, Natasha Romanoff frowned and asked, did I just add sugar or real sugar? I didn't notice, they're all put together anyway. Listening to Natasha Romanoff's inquiry, Su Che smiled and shook his head. Okay. I originally wanted to quit sugar for a while, after all, I haven't trained much during this period, and I still want to keep fit. Without dwelling too much on this question, Natasha Romanoff looked at Su Che and said, 2 things. The first thing is that Nick Fury wants to meet with you. The main purpose is to buy for S.H.I.E.L.D., the kind of metal hydrogen that only you can compress with water. After all, in the words of the researchers in S.H.I.E.L.D., metallic hydrogen is equivalent to the holy grail of the physics world, something that is full of hope but cannot be realized for the time being. So the price is negotiable, you can just report the amount as you like. Having said that, Natasha Romanoff raised her eyebrows. If you really want to sell, then don't lower the price. When physicists all over the world want to make it, but only you have it privately. Then don't save money for S.H.I.E.L.D. after all. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. purchased it, the World Security Council paid for it. Hearing what Natasha Romanoff said, Su-Che nodded. I'm not an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Why should I save money for S.H.I.E.L.D.? Although, I don't care about money. After all, it is quite simple for us people to get money. Hearing what Su-Che said, Natasha Romanoff nodded noncommittally. When I escaped from the Red House, I was worried about everything. But the only thing I didn't worry about was not having money. For those with super abilities, the morality and kindness in their hearts often drive them not to abuse this ability, the most basic constraint. Like Superman in the comics. If it weren't for being bound by moral values and good intentions, Superman would have been the king of the earth. The other thing is that a man is back. Looking at Su-Che, Natasha Romanoff said very seriously. Perhaps, his return will make countless people feel joyful and even excited. Who's back? Seeing Natasha Romanoff's expression, Su-Che was a little confused. What Natasha Romanoff said was that Tony Stark was kidnapped and returned. Probably not. Even if Tony Stark returns, it will not make countless people happy. Not to mention exciting. A superhero who has been abandoned by the times, has been sleeping for nearly 70 years, and has been commemorated for 70 years. His return will definitely affect and inspire many people, including the agents in S.H.I.E.L.D. After the words fell, Natasha Romanoff looked into Su-Che's eyes, and smiled while holding a cup of coffee. Don't look at me like that, the sour words were said by Nick Fury, I'm just responsible for paraphrasing them. Steve Rogers, the legendary who exists in the Memorial Hall. Hear from Natasha Romanoff on the return of Steve Rogers. Su-Che was indeed slightly surprised. Although the name was mentioned in the Black Gold Diary, Su-Che already knew that Nick Fury would definitely send someone to the North Pole to find him. But they didn't expect that they were found in advance. Not only that, listen to what Natasha Romanoff means, Steve Rogers has come to his senses. And Natasha Romanoff just relayed Nick Fury's sentence, the return of the legendary hero will definitely inspire the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ah. That's where it gets interesting. Does it mean that through the contents of the Black Gold Diary recorded by oneself, already let Nick Fury notice in advance that S.H.I.E.L.D. has Hydra forces? Well, follow Nick Fury's character. It would be fun to find out about Hydra ahead of time. Well, have to keep prodding Nick Fury in the diary. After all, the more Nick Fury discovers the depth and power of Hydra in S.H.I.E.L.D., then the more important you are to yourself. This is very helpful to increase the trust value. No, the press conference after Tony Stark's return has begun. Looking at the TV hanging on the wall, at the moment it is showing a press conference about Tony Stark after he returned from the kidnapping attack. Natasha Romanoff smiled at Su-Che. I didn't expect that the first thing he did after he came back was not to check his physical condition, but to hold a press conference. Sue, what do you think this playboy wants to announce to the media? Seeing that Natasha Romanoff seemed to be very interested, Su-Che pointed to the opposite side and said, Stark Industry is just opposite, and the press conference was held on the first floor. If you are interested, you can go to the scene to observe. Let's forget it, anyway, Is he crazy? Looking at the live TV screen, Tony Stark was sitting on the ground announcing directly to the media in front of him. The Stark Industries weapons manufacturing division will be permanently closed. Looking at the pictures of the media flocking to interview, Natasha Romanoff looked at Su-Che and asked curiously, doesn't he know what the Stark industry is supported by? Just like what Natasha Romanoff thought, many people heard Tony Stark suddenly announced that they would close the Stark Industrial Weapons Manufacturing Department. Everyone thought Tony Stark was crazy. Even Obadiah Stine, who managed to appease the reporters, thought Tony was out of his mind. Pulled him aside, but before Obadiah Stine asked, Tony Stark asked him first, Oba, do you know who Mr. Superman is? Walter. Originally, he wanted to question Tony why he suddenly announced the closure of the Stark Industrial Weapons Manufacturing Department. Why not Obadiah Stine, who consulted with him in advance? After hearing Tony Stark's question suddenly feel a little confused. Who is Mr. Superman? Clark Kent, Kal-El. Tony is back. Yes, Tony Stark, who was kidnapped for 3 months, is back. The first thing I did when I came back was not to see a doctor, but to hold a press conference to announce permanently close the Stark Industries weapons manufacturing department. He doesn't know, because of his decision, will the stock of Stark Industries plummet and property evaporate? No. As a genius who can make circuit boards at the age of 4 and an engine at the age of 6, he knows this very well. But he is still like this, making a decision without hesitation. Although everyone does not understand his thoughts, including Pipo, who he trusts the most at the moment. But I know, this is the beginning of his change. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. In fact, from Phil Coulson's been watching over there, and word came back that Tony Stark had built a crude armor. Then after escaping wearing armor, Nick Fury has been waiting for the update of Suche's 7th diary. Although the 6th diary was just updated last night, and he almost killed himself. However, Nick Fury knew that Suche would definitely update this diary. After all, Tony Stark is also recorded in the Black Gold Diary, one of the members of the future Avengers Alliance family. So he came back. How could Suche be indifferent? Sure enough, I didn't wait in vain tonight. At least I saw the 7th diary I was thinking about. Actually, I once asked Tony over a drink why he shut down the Stark Industries weapons manufacturing division. That was already in his heart after he reconciled with his father, Howard Starr. Facing my inquiry, he smiled and said that Stark Industries' weapon manufacturing department has gone against his and his father's original intention. Not only failed to protect common people and maintain world peace, but created one disaster after another, causing many people to lose their homes, and even their lives. So, before he escaped from the cave, he made up his mind. When he said these words, I could see a trace of shame on his face. It was like when he faced the accountability of the mother who lost her child after his speech at the university. He couldn't even say a word. Obviously, we saved more people during the battle in Sokovia. But facing the mother who lost her child, Tony, who has always been very eloquent, became speechless. Look at the things written in the diary. Nick Fury didn't care at all. He wanted to see Tony Stark, Mr. Howard Stark's son, get better. However, as to whether the weapons manufactured by Stark Industries saved more people or killed more people, Nick Fury didn't give a damn about it. Not that he despises life. It is that countless people die every day in this world because of weapons. If it really cared so much, then S.H.I.E.L.D. wouldn't have to do anything else. The most important point is that small sacrifices under the big goal are inevitable. At least, Nick Fury thinks so. But looking at the things recorded in the Black Gold Diary, Nick Fury was very relieved in his heart. I can have such a character and have such thoughts. But the Avengers to be formed in the future, the superhero in this team cannot be the same as myself. Otherwise it will be a bigger disaster. Nick Fury knows. You can't be a superhero yourself. I'll never be Steve Rogers myself. Like Steve Rogers will never be himself. What kind of person, what kind of identity does what kind of thing? This is all doomed. In the apartment. Look at the content recorded in the diary. Wanda pouted subconsciously. Although he knew that the real murderer who caused the death of his parents was Obadiah Stine. But to this Tony Stark guy, Wanda still has a bit of grudge in her heart. After all, he created the weapon. But looking at what his future husband Suche said in the diary, Tony Stark's mentality has changed. Wanda just snorted lightly, but didn't express much. On the other hand, Natasha Romanoff thought about what she saw in the coffee shop with Suche during the day. Regarding Tony Stark's announcement of the closure of the arms manufacturing department. Well, although I was like many people on the internet at the time, I couldn't understand it. But now it is clear. It turned out that these 3 months were what prompted Tony Stark's mentality to change. Then slowly become the beginning of one of the superheroes. It seems that I can no longer use my previous understanding of Tony Stark to see him. If it weren't for a superhero with a parallel world like Suche. He knew very well, if not knowing, what was going to happen in the future. So neither Nick Fury nor Natasha Romanoff would easily think that Tony Stark's mentality has changed. The country is easy to change, but the nature is hard to change. Although Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff do not know the meaning of this idiom. But it's about the same. Perhaps, as Pepper said, Tony Stark has a warm heart. This change of mentality, coupled with the reprimand of the mother who lost her child, is also the reason why when the Sokovia Agreement came out, Tony, a cynical superhero, will become a staunch supporter of the agreement, thinking that superheroes should be under supervision and obey orders. But Steve, who has always followed orders, thinks that Avengers should not sign this agreement and should not be a supervisor of an organization. He said that this will slowly degrade Avengers and eventually become a weapon of an organization. Then, with no one able to convince anyone, a civil war broke out among the Avengers. Actually, almost, just a little bit, Steve signed that name. It was only later that the Avengers fell apart, fighting on their own, being wanted, and arrested. The harmonious and warm family will never be the same again. Until we paid a heavy price later, the Earth, and even half of the life in the entire universe, were reduced to ashes under the snap of our fingers. Sokovia deal, Avengers falling apart? Look at the content recorded in the diary. Nick Fury sat up straight, and his expression suddenly became serious. Although in the first few diaries, Nick Fury knew there was a civil war ahead for the Avengers. For this reason, he also thought about how S.H.I.E.L.D. should prevent the outbreak of this battle, or blunt the civil strife among the Avengers. After all, this is the superhero team he formed himself. The purpose is to prevent someone from trying to destroy the Earth. So he will definitely not see civil strife in the future of the Avengers alliance with his own eyes. But now, look at the content recorded in the diary. Nick Fury also had to get serious. After all, the consequences of civil unrest in the Avengers are horrific. Earth, universe. Half of life was reduced to ashes. Don't mention these. Just looking at the Sokovia Agreement recorded in the diary. Obviously, this should be the fuse that broke out among members of the Avengers Alliance. Although I don't know exactly what happened in Sokovia. But read between the lines, judging from the sentence, Tony thinks Avengers should be subject to regulatory supervision. Obviously, this must be a certain department's excuse that, for the safety of the public, the Avengers' ability is too strong to make the public panic. Want to turn the Avengers into a pawn in their hands. After all, according to the records in the diary, Avengers had saved the world more than once at that time. Then they should have a very high voice and support in the hearts of all common people. Supporters must be all over the world. In this case, anyone who uses integrity, not a typo, to prevent harmony, or wants to control integrity, will not miss such a good opportunity. The department that established the Sokovia Agreement should have seen this. In order to gain the support of the people, they want to hold the Avengers Alliance in their hands. After all, mastering the Avengers Alliance means mastering the support of the people, and even mastering the right to speak. This, Nick Fury is very sure, because although he is the king of agents, he is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. But he was originally, also one of the uprights. Good guy. I managed to get together these superheroes who are kind, firm, and able to save the world. In the end, this group of goddamn coincidences just wanted to reach out to pick peaches? Pooh. A group of damned reptiles for profit and for the superior. No wonder everyone would say that those upright families were full of filth and filth. But what were you doing at that time? Why would something like the Sokovia Accords be allowed to happen? Could it be that he was already dead at that time, or lost his position as the controller of S.H.I.E.L.D.? After all, if I was still there, I would never watch this kind of thing happen. After all, what kind of thing would make him ignore this happening? With doubts in his heart, Nick Fury decided to continue watching. Perhaps, there will be a key point of my own doubts next. Actually, at the very beginning, the scale of civil strife in Avengers was not large, but the opinions were different. No one is willing to kill his teammates who once fought side by side with him. No one is willing to use the most powerful force on their family members. It was only later that the guy who lost his daughter succeeded in his scheme. He let Tony see with his own eyes that the real cause of his parents' death was not a car accident, but Winter Warrior, Winter Soldier Bucky Barnes. When Tony asked Steve in disbelief if he knew about it but kept it secret, Steve's answer hurt Tony deeply. That's when the Avengers, the real ones, began to break up. Winter Soldier. Seeing this name, Natasha Romanoff subconsciously frowned and pronounced the name. Natasha Romanoff, do you know the Winter Soldier that Sue wrote in his diary? Hearing Natasha Romanoff mention the name Winter Soldier, Wanda turned her head and asked curiously. Meet Winter Warrior in Legendary. He raised his hand and lifted his clothes to reveal a scar on his abdomen. This scar is a bullet pierced by the Winter Soldier, so I will never be able to wear a bikini again. Looking at Natasha Romanoff's stomach where the bullet had pierced through it, Wanda touched it with some distress. At that time, it must have hurt. Although Wanda and Pietro never called Natasha Romanoff a sister, but he experienced the tragic experience of losing his parents, wandering and joining the Hydra base, etc. Wanda, who always wanted to have a family, met Natasha Romanoff. Whether it was the distrust at the beginning, or because of the joint ownership of the Black Gold Diary. In addition, during this period of time, Natasha Romanoff, whether it is daily life or any file size matter, she cared for them like a big sister. How can this make Wanda, who has always longed to have a family, resist? To put it bluntly, Wanda is only 14 years old, and there are still 10 days before her 15th birthday. And even if it is a stone, it will be warmed up slowly, right? So, after looking at Wanda with distressed eyes, Natasha Romanoff, this cold-blooded, Black Widow who also longed for a family very much. He also stretched out his hand to embrace the younger sister Wanda in his arms. It's okay, it's already over. And all these years, my sister and I haven't experienced any big storms. This little injury is nothing. Facing the two people who hugged each other again at night, Pietro thinks, well, Pietro didn't come out to use the bathroom tonight, so I didn't see this scene. Pietro didn't see it, but Nick Fury saw this sentence in the Black Gold Diary. As the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury naturally knew how Howard Stark and Ms. Maria died. The reason why I didn't tell Tanya Stark, it was because he was worried that Tony Stark would be impulsive and want to avenge his parents regardless. This will kill him for sure. I just didn't expect that this concealment would eventually become the real reason for the civil war between the Avengers. Gotta find a way to let Tanya Stark know the news in advance. Solve the hidden dangers of things and not leave an ambush for the future. This is what I, the holder of the Black Gold Diary, should do. Thinking of this, Nick Fury revisited the Black Gold Diary. The reason why I am writing here today is because during the day, Natasha Romanoff told me that the man is back. Seriously, when I heard Natasha Romanoff say that S.H.I.E.L.D. found Steve sleeping in the frozen Arctic, I'm really surprised. I didn't expect S.H.I.E.L.D. to find him nearly 2 years in advance and wake him up. The future has changed, or because of my appearance, many things started to advance. I just don't know if the hammer will fall from the sky ahead of time. But it doesn't matter, whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. Perhaps I am very similar to Steve at this moment, a person who was abandoned by the original world. The only difference is that Steve will work hard to adapt to this new world in the future. And I am still in hesitation whether to integrate into this world. I don't know, I should integrate into this world, become a member of the Avengers Alliance again, and continue to be a superhero. You should still stand by and act as a qualified spectator in the parallel universe. Forget it. Don't want to. Let's just leave it at that. See if there is a chance in the future to visit other worlds. After all, the Parallel Universe channel will open in the future, and it will be interesting for the 3 Spider-Men to appear together. Perhaps, I can use this opportunity to go to other worlds for a while. The diary writing stops here. Nick Fury's brows were always furrowed. Especially when he saw the last sentence, Nick Fury's heart skipped a beat. Go to another parallel world for a while. What a joke. You need to know in Nick Fury's plan for the future Avengers Alliance. Su Che can be said to play an extremely important role. There are even many spiritual mentors who will become superheroes for the first time in the future. As a result, now, Su Che is not sure whether to continue playing. Depend on. Using Su Che's previous diaries, he knew in advance that Tony Stark was kidnapped. Know in advance what will happen in the future. Even successfully found, the frozen Steve Rogers legendary hero. A superhero like this who has a lot of strength, is determined, and knows what's going to happen in the future. Now he actually said that he was not sure whether he wanted to integrate into this world and continue to be a superhero to save the world. Do you even want to go to other parallel worlds? What a joke. Absolutely not. I absolutely cannot accept the best gift that fate bestows on this world. In the end, I went to other parallel worlds because I couldn't integrate into this world. I can let him have the life rights of common people, and I can give him the right to be himself. It can even allow him to have rights and status far beyond the common people. However, I absolutely cannot accept that he was abducted by other parallel worlds. Thinking of this, Nick Fury immediately picked up the phone and dialed out. As the phone was connected, Nick Fury said in a deep voice, "Hill, I have a very important task for you. It's time for the two of them to meet."